Bruchim haboim. Welcome everyone. We're about to begin Be'ezras Hashem together on Daf Kuf Yud Ches Amud Beis. 6 lines from the bottom. The Gemara is discussing Gimel Seudos on Shabbos, and it started by saying that a person is Mekayim Shalosh Seudos b'Shabbos Nitzel mi Gimel Puroniyos Kama Aneges HaShabbos, all that are Ma'aneg the Shabbos, Yeshlo Nachalo Noisni Lo Nachla Beli Mitzorim. More recently, we had a statement from Rabbi Yossi Hechelki Mi'oichle Shalosh Seudos b'Shabbos, and that started off a series of other statements of Yehechelki, testifying to Rabbi Yossi's Gadlus and Tzitkus and Shlemus. The Gemara now goes on to say, Amar of Nachman Teisi Li the Kayemis Shalosh Seudos b'Shabbos. He says Teisi Li, either it means to say that give me the schar, or you'll say that he means otherwise. He's saying that I am concentrating my being medaktek in the following mitzvah. Give me siyata dishmaya. In Mekem Kayim Gimel Seudos on Shabbos. Rav Yehuda Teisi Li the Kayemis iyo in tefillah, that I have siyata dishmaya in davening with kavana. Rav Huna Bered Rav Yoshua Teisi Li deloy sagina Dalet Amos begilui harosh. Give me siyata deshmaya that I will walk Dalet Amos, not more than Dalet Amos, without a head covering. Omar Sheshes Teisi li dekayemes mitzvahs tefillin, that I fulfill the mitzvah of tefillin. Now tefillin is a mitzvah deraisa, so Teisi li to help me that I'm not going to walk Dalet Amos without tefillin. Or some learn that I'm medaktek in the mitzvah of tefillin in all of its hidurim. V'amar Rav Nachman Teisi li dekayemes mitzvah tzitzis, and similarly in mitzvah tzitzis, that I will not walk Dalet Amos without tzitzis on. Or again, alternatively, that he's medaktek in the hidurim of mitzvah tzitzis. Omar le Rav Yossi berei de Rabbe avuch, your father Rabbe b'may zahir tfei, in which mitzvah was he particularly careful with? Omar le but tzitzis. He said, my father Rabbe was particularly careful and scrupulous in the mitzvah tzitzis, amongst other mitzvahs. Yoim achada have a kasolik badargo. One day he was going up the ladder. Ifsik lechuta, and a string of the tzitzis then became detached. V'lo nachis v'osa kamadolay ramya, and he would not come down until he was able to then reattach an 8th string. In other words, even without that string, it would have been a kosher pair of tzitzis. Nonetheless, he did not want to continue going up the ladder until it was fixed. V'amar Abaye Teisi li dechi chazina tzubim rabbonan desholim masechta. Abaye, the great Rosh Yeshiva, said that if one of the Talmidim, one of the Rabbanon, finished a Masechta, a tractate, on the half of Kuf Yud Tes Amud Aleph at the top, Avidna Yoim Tova l'Rabbanon, I would make a Su'uda for the Rabbanon in the Yeshiva. Omar Rava Teisi li dechi asa tzubim Rabbanon lekamoy ledina lo mazigna reishi abesadia kamadloi mehafichna bezechusei. Says Rava that in his great love for the Chachamim, he said, if I had a Chacham, a Talmid Chacham that came before me in Din, I would not put my head down on my pillow, meaning I would not sleep at night until I try to find a Zechus for that Talmid Chacham who was in Din. Again, he wouldn't try to find something that wasn't there, but he would think what it is, what kind of Zechus could he find that is, in fact, something that can be for the benefit of this Talmid Chacham. Omar Ma'ar Rav Ashi pasilna le'tzurbim rabbanon ledina. Ma'ar Rav Ashi similarly says, because of his chavivus of Talmidei Chachamim, if a Talmid Chacham came before me in judgment, I would pasul myself from being a judge because of my chavivus, my endearment that I would have towards him. My time at the chaviv alai begufoi, because he is cherished before me like myself. Ve'ein adam roya choiv la'atzman, when a person doesn't see a choiv on himself, he only looks at the good in himself, and therefore I would not be impartial when judging him. Rabbi Chanina mi'ate v'koy apanya demali shabto. He says, Rabbi Chanina, that he would enwrap himself in Bigdei Shabbos. Omar, he would say, Bo v'neitze likra Shabbos hamalchot. Come out, let us go out and greet the Shabbos queen. Rabbi Yonai Lovish Ma'anei Ma'ali Shabbos. Rabbi Yonai would wear a special garment on Erev Shabbos, va'omar, and he would say, bo'u kalo, bo'u kalo. And this is the source for the Lecha Doidi. Rabbi Barav Huna ikloi lebe Rabbi Barav Nachmon krevu le tlas save techuye. He then brought his guest 3 wafers with fat or with type of oil smeared on top of it. It was because it would be a delicacy. Omar Lei said to him, Mi hava yadisun da asina. Did you know that I was coming? I was going to be a guest here? That you prepared such delicious delicacies? Omulei, they said to Mi adifos lo mino. Is there something not more adif, meaning more precious? In other words, we prepared for the Shabbos Kodesh. We didn't know that you were coming. And therefore, here are the delicacies that we prepared for Shabbos that we're going to give to you as well to partake in. Rabbi Abba Zoven betleisa astire pshite bisro mitleisa taboche. Rabbi Abba wanted to honor Shabbos special, so he would buy 13 different with 13 types of meats from 13 types of butchers. Umashlim lehu atzino dedasha. He would go. After buying one meat from one butcher shop, he would go to the house and he would then say to them, take care of this meat and prepare it quickly. And then he would go on to the other shop and then come back again. V'amar lehu, he would say to the household, Ashur hayo, Ashur hayo. In other words, get quick, strengthen yourself and quickly prepare the food. And then he would come back again and bring another piece of meat. Rabbi Abo Hava Yosiv Atachtoko, the Sheno, Umoish, the Shina Umoishif Nura. He would sit on, he was a very wealthy man, he would sit on an ivory chair and he would fan the flames that were going to be used for the cooking of Shabbos. Rav Anon Lovish Gundo. Rav Anon would wear dark black clothing because he would not want to wear ruin good clothing. He would know that he's preparing for Shabbos and he would not want his clothing to get ruined for Shabbos. He would then wear darkened clothes in order to then prepare the food and cook in those clothes. The Tan de Bishmol begodin shebisho behen kedeiro l'raboy shel yim l'raboy al yimzoy behen kois l'raboy. The kedeiro, the pot that a person, an ev, is going to then serve his master with, and he will then get sullied. He's not going to then go ahead and wear the same types of clothes when he then brings his master a cup of wine. So too, he's going to then wear darkened clothes on Erev Shabbos to prepare for the Shabbos, and then be able to then change his clothes to clean Shabbos dika clothes on the entrance of Shabbos. Rav Safra Machrich Reisha, Rav Safra, he would singe the hair of an animal that was, the head of the animal that was used, going to be used for a Shabbos delicacy. Rava Molach Shibuta, Rava would salt the fish. Rav Huna Madlik Shragi. Rav Huna, he would light the nair. Rav Papa Godil Patilta, he would make the psilim, the threads to light the Shabbos neiros with. Rav Chizda Parim Silka, he would cut the beets. Rabbi Rav Yosef Matzalchi Tzivi, they would chop wood. Rav Zera Mitzate Tzatuti, he would ignite the small pieces of wood in order to then make the flames to be able to cook with the fire. All of these great sages, Amaroim, then it wasn't beneath their dignity, Adarabah, they then used some time on Erev Shabbos to prepare for Shabbos in order to then mechabed the Shabbos. Rav Nachman Bar Yisrael Mekatev Vayel Mekatev V'nofik, he would carry inside and out, meaning he would bring heavy items, clothing and other things that were used for Shabbos, and he would bring them inside the house, and he would take things that were unnecessary, the things that do not belong in the house for Shabbos, he would then put them on his shoulder and he would then carry them outside. Omar, he would say, Ilu makaloin li Rabbi Am Rabbi Asi, if the sages, Rabbi Am Asi, would come and visit me, Milo mekasifna kamayu, would I not carry things and matriach myself before them? So too then before the Shabbos, Kala, I can also then matriach myself by carrying things in and out of the house. V'ikadamin, there are those that say a different version, Rabbi Am Rabbi Asi, mekasi va'ayla mekasi v'nafki, they themselves would carry things inside the house and then to outside the house. Amrei ilu ikloi lon Rabbi Yochanan mila kaftinon Kamei, if it wasn't Rabbi Yochanan who would visit us, would we not also then matriach ourselves to carry things on our shoulders, bringing things inside the house and taking things outside the house? So too then in front of the Shabbos Kala. Yosef Moikir Shabi Havo. The Gemara tells us the following incident, that Yosef, who was somebody who honored the Shabbos, Hahu Nachi B'Shivivusei Dahava Nofish Nichsei Tuva. There was a Gentile man who was very wealthy. Amrei Le Kaldoi, an astrologer, told this wealthy individual, this wealthy goy, Kulu Nichsei Yosef Moikir Shabi Ochel Lehu. All of your property is going to be consumed, meaning is going to be given over to Yosef Moikir Shabbos. Ozo Savninu Lekulu Nichse. What did he do, the goy? He went and he sold all of his property. Zovan Behu Marganisa, and he bought with it a pearl worth the value of all of that property. Oisu Besaine, he then put it inside of his hat. He put a golden type of setting with the pearl inside of that setting and held it in his hat. Bahadi de Ka'ovar Mavra, when he was passing over a river, Afreche Ziko Shadi B'maya, then a wind came and it blew the hat into the water. Bole Kavra Askua Aisu Apanya de Mali Shabto, a fish swallowed it, and a fisherman caught the fish and brought it in to the marketplace on an Erev Shabbos. It was now after the time that everybody finished buying their things for Shabbos. Amre, they said, the fishermen, Man Zovin Kihash, who's going to buy this now? Amre Lohu, they told him, Zilu, I'm to you, Legabe Yosef Mokir, Shabi de Rogil de Zovin. Go and bring it to Yosef Mokir Shabbos, who's accustomed to buying things for Shabbos special. Amtuye Nihile Zavne, they brought it to him, and indeed he bought it. Zavne, he bought it. Kare Ashkoch Be Marganisa, he opened up the fish, and lo and behold, he found the pearl. Zavne Betlesa Ilayosa de Dinri da Dahava. The Gemara tells us that he was able to buy with that pearl 13 attics filled with gold, meaning to say, an extremely large amount of money. Poga be'ahu saba. Some say this is Eliyahu Novi. Omar, and he said to him, Man de Yosef Shabta Pare Shabta, one who borrows from Shabbos, meaning he uses expenses and he pays out expenditures in order to then honor the Shabbos, then the Shabbos will then pay back. Boy mine Rabbi Shmuel Rabbi Yosi. Rabbi asks Rabbi Shmuel Rabbi Yosi the following question: Ashirim Be'eretz Yisrael, Bamehein Zoichin. How are those who are wealthy in Eretz Yisrael zoichet to that wealth? Omar le b'shvil shema'asrin, because they take meiser out when they have a field. So what they do is they take meiser right away, and they take whatever they have, and they give 1/10 to the Levi. Then they give another 10th, depending on the year, either as meiser sheni, bring it to Yerushalayim, or meiser oni. They're very careful with their tithes. Shneimar aser te aser b'shvil shetis asher. He makes a drasha, when you give meiser, then you'll get ashirus. And this is also concluded as meiser ksofim. When a person takes out 1/10 of his money and gives it to poor people, to anim. Shebebavel malahein zoichin. So that was in Eretz Yisrael, but in Bavel, what are they zoichet to become wealthy? Amar le b'shvil shemechabdin es haTorah, because they're mechabed the Torah, they become wealthy as a result. V'shebshei shar artzois b'mehein zochin, other lands, what do they do in order to be zoichet to become ashirim? What? Amar le b'shvil shemechabdin es haShabbos, because they're mechabed the Shabbos, they're zoichet to ashirus. The Amar Rabbi Chia bar Abba pam achas nisarachti etzel balabais belutkia. The Gemara tells over about a certain wealthy man who lived in the city of Lutkia. Veheviu lefonav shulchan shel zohav masui shisha asar bnei adam. They brought him a golden table that had the weight of for 16 men to carry. That's how heavy it was. V'sheish esrei shal shalois shal kesef kavuos boy, and there were 16 silver chains that were connected to it, so that on every side there was 4 chains for each person to then carry this heavy golden table. And there were different types of things that one can then drink from, cups and other things, jugs, that were then connected to this table. And there are other things also that were on this table, all different types of food and delicious things and spices. And they would leave it before they would partake in the meal. They would say, La Hashem ha'aretz u'moyah, to Hashem belongs everything and its fullness, the whole land, all of the world and its fullness belongs to Hashem. He's the Baal Bayis, it all belongs to Him. And therefore, they recognize that the giver of all of this wealth and all of this food and all the delicacies was from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And when they would take away the table, then they would say, Hashomayim, Shomayim la Hashem v'haaretz nosan livnei Adam. The Shomayim belongs to Hashem, but once a person thanks HaKadosh Baruch Hu and gives a bracha, then he's able to partake in the goodness that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has bestowed upon him. Amarti lo, I said to him, B'ni, b'mezachis lekach, he said to the Baal Bayis here in Ludkia, to what you were zoiche to have such tremendous wealth. Omar li, he said to me, Kotzav hayisi umikol behema shayisa noeh. Amarti zu tehesh l'Shabbos. He says, I was a butcher, and every beautiful type of cut of meat that I saw was extraordinarily good. I said, this belongs for Shabbos. In other words, he honored the Shabbos with the meat that he was cutting in his butcher shop. Amarti loy, I said to him, Ashrecha shezachiso uborach hamocham shezikecha lekach. Says the Gemara weiter, another Maisa, this time describing the delicious aspect of the Shabbos food. Says the Gemara more like Kesar le Rabbi Yoshua ben Chanina. The Caesar said to Rabbi Yoshua ben Chanina, Mipnei ma tavshil shel Shabbos reichoy noidev. Why is the smell of Shabbos food so good? Amar loy tavlin echad yesh lonu v'Shabbos shmoy. We have a special ingredient that we put into this food, and its name is Shabbos. And we put into the food, and it causes a delicious aroma to transpire. Omar loy, so the Caesar said to him, Ten lonu heimenu, give us some of that spice. Omar loy, he said back to the Caesar, Kol mishames haShabbos moyel loy, v'she'eno mishames haShabbos eno moyel loy. Only those who are mishamer the Shabbos, that shaykhs to the Shabbos, and are able to then guard the Shabbos properly, are they zoiche to this spice, but I can't give it to you. Says the Gemara weiter, Amar le reish galus l'Rav Hamnuna. My dirsi, what's meant? Find the following verse. It says in the pasuk from Yeshaya, Im toshiv mishabis raglecha asois chafotzecha b'yom kodshi v'karosa la Shabbos oineg likdosh Hashem mechubad v'chibadto me'asot drochecha mimtzor chavtzecha v'daber dovar. So the Gemara asks, my dirsi v'likdosh Hashem mechubad. After all, the pasuk had just said because of Shabbos oineg, and then it says likdosh Hashem mechubad, referring to something else other than Shabbos. Amar le ze Yom Kippurim she'ein boy lo yachil lo shtiya. You can't eat and can't drink. So how do you mechaber the Yom Kippurim? Says Chazal, Amro Torah kabedeyu biksus nekiya. You mechaber the Yom Kippurim with clean kavadika clothes. Then the pasuk says v'chibadetoi me'asos drochech. It's going back on Shabbos. Rav amar lahakadim, to make your meal earlier. Ushmuel amar la'acher, to make your meal later. And they're not arguing. If a person normally makes his meal late, make it earlier. If a person normally makes his meal late, make it earlier. Make it earlier, then make it later. Omru le b'nei Rav Papa abba Rav Papa. They said to Rav Papa, Kigon ana deshchiach lam bisr v'chamro kol yoyme b'may nishne. We who eat meat and drink wine every day, how can we make Shabbos different and special? He said to him, if you're accustomed to eating early, then eat your Suda later. If you're accustomed to eating your Suda late, then eat it earlier. Rav Sheshet It says that Rav Sheshes over here, he wanted to then encourage his students after the shir to go quickly and go to eat their Suda Shabbos and partake in Oneg Shabbos. So he would, during the summer, sit the Talmidim, the Rabbanon, in a place where at a certain point in time, the sun will shine on that area and therefore become hot. Then they'll want to then get up and leave. Besitva moisiv l'rabban heichad. And in the autumn, he would put them in a place where then it would become shady and become cool very quick at a certain point after the shir, so that they would quickly get up and go to their suuda. So that they would hurry up and get up to go to their suuda and partake in the Oneg Shabbos. Says the Gemara, Rabbi Zera, Mahader Azuzi Zuzi the Rabban, along these lines, on top of Kuf Yud Tes Amud Beis, that Rabbi Zera would go when he would see pairs of Chachamim, of Talmidei Chachamim speaking with one another and learning, and he would say to them, Amra Lahu b'matusa minaychu. He said, please, he said, forgive me, but lo techalalune. He said, don't, mechalal mean to say that don't discard the importance of Oneg Shabbos. Go and feast, enjoy the Sudas Shabbos.